Hey, friend Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, these flavors go together like chocolate and mint. Guinness Chocolate Mint Stout is a 10.8% bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout from Guinness Open Gate Brewery in Baltimore, Maryland. New to shelves and available around us, today I'm looking at the latest Guinness variant, Chocolate Mint Stout. Now previously I've had the barrel-aged stock ale. I was pretty impressed, but I've missed some of the other variants that Guinness has released so far. So let's get a look at this one. We'll get it into a glass, but first I'd like to thank my executive producers Brian Kramer, David Jeffries, Chad Shirk, and Cam Freeman for helping to bring this review to you today. If you'd like to become a producer, help with the channel, or maybe just throw me a couple bucks to buy me a beer, take a look at my Patreon at patreon.drafttherapy.com, where you can get early access to these videos and a few other special perks available only to patrons, including some giveaways. And just a heads up, if you look this up on Untappd and you're checking it out or you're looking for more information, this specific beer is constantly, it looks like, getting confused with mint chocolate stout, which sounds like more of an issue on Guinness's part, but what can you do? That's like a 6%. This is a bourbon barrel-aged stout, so it's a little bit different. So we'll start from the top. We got the gold cap. It's got the harp on it, which is Guinness's kind of logo. It's the thing that they're known for. If we look around the front here, in green, on the front, it says Open Gate Brewery in Baltimore, Maryland. This is Guinness's Open Gate Brewery. Underneath that, it says Chocolate Mint Stout, aged in Kentucky Bourbon Barrels, brewed and bottled by Guinness Brewing Company in Baltimore, Maryland. Right next to that, in really small fine print, it says this is 10.8% alcohol by volume. Because this is a little bit of a smaller bottle, it's 11.2% fluid ounces. And then if we turn it around to the back, it says this winter treat was brewed with mint, aged in bourbon barrels, and then finished with cacao, a brew of minty, malty sweetness with oak and cocoa finish. And then the government warning: drink responsibly. You can check more out about them at Guinness.com. Please recycle, all that good stuff, the deposit information. Like I said, there is a mint chocolate stout that is non-barrel aged. This is chocolate mint stout. This is barrel aged. Okay. How about we get a little bit clearer naming conventions, and maybe that wouldn't happen, but whatever. All right. So let's go ahead and crack this open and put a nose on it. Set that to the side. Putting a nose on it. Getting a lot of mint. A lot of mint. Big mint on the nose. I don't really know. Maybe there's a little bit of a chocolatey note to it. It smells like an Andes kind of candy. One of those, you get them at restaurants, or like after dinner mints, basically. Let's go ahead and pour this. And it looks actually pretty clear coming, I mean, not clear, but it looks pretty light coming out of the bottle. We're just going to pour it down the hatch there. Not a whole lot of carbonation going on here. Actually, a lot of bubbles rising up to the top, but we got about a half a finger of head. Not really a super impressive head, but, stouts, barrel-aged stouts, you don't really expect to have these just momentous, just heads coming out of nowhere. You can see from the top, it looks pretty thin. Like, you can see the beer through the head. It's just a little bit off-white and really lots of small bubbles. If we hold it up, that's just opaque, right? There's just a slight bit of coloration across the bottom here. It might be, it looks a little bit like a dark crimson, close to like a dark brown. Let's put a nose on the glass here. And again, just a lot more mint, maybe a slight bit of a sweeter chocolate, like a milk chocolate aroma. Not really getting any kind of bourbon characteristic, but a lot of mint. I mean, it smells like super minty. So let's go ahead and try this one out. Cheers. So we talk about the mouthfeel first off. As I mentioned on the pour, it looked kind of light on the pour. The mouthfeel is very light. It's not super crisp. It's not like, like a lager crisp, which I have a lot of experience with all that advent calendar work I've been doing. But it's not quite that light, but for a barrel-aged stout, this is like one of the thinnest barrel-aged stouts that I can remember in recent history. It rivals my recent history, at least. It rivals a lot, and I keep bagging on them, but it reminds me a lot of like a Dragon Milk variant, where those get really very thin. This kind of does that too. So let's talk about the taste here. I mean, the first thing I notice right off the bat is the same thing I noticed on the nose of the bottle, on the nose of the glass. It's a lot of mint. It's almost like almost has like a stinging kind of mint, but I think what it is that mint comes and it goes, it comes and passes, and then the bourbon really comes through, and you get, like, I didn't get any bourbon on the nose on either the bottle or the glass, but when you drink this, when you take a swallow of it, you get that mint up front. I'm not really getting much chocolate, but you definitely get a strong bourbon kind of bite to it on the tail end, on the swallow, and that's the aftertaste. It has a slight burn to it, and that's that bourbon characteristic that really jumps out at you. You know, I'd say there's probably two distinct, actually three distinct steps of flavor that you go through. On that first initial taste, before the swallow, you definitely get mint. There is a slight chocolate, very light. It's not nearly as good, I don't want to say good, but it's not nearly as big of a chocolate flavor as you might get like off the nose of it. So you get a lot of mint, a little tiny bit of chocolate. On the swallow, you get that stinging. I mean, the bourbon is so forward that it's like a stinging flavor. And then so that's step two. And then step three of the flavor of the the progression of the beer is then that mint again. So the mint wraps around, because I think that there's just so much mint on this that you get it on the upfront, you get it on the finish. In the middle is that bourbon, and like I said, because it is so strong and is so like just in your face, so like kind of stinging, to me it's almost a little off-putting. Like, it doesn't burn. I guess maybe I have a slight burn in my chest from the bourbon, to how forward it is, how like aggressive it is. That it's definitely a major component to this beer. Like I said, because you have that bourbon sting, you have that little bit of a burn, there is definitely, you can definitely feel the 10.8%. I mean, it comes across as a really kind of strong barrel-aged imperial stout. It's a barrel-aged beer for, but there have been so many recent beers in recent memory that are bourbon barrel aged, that are 10% and above, that don't have that stinging quality to it. Like, I don't know if that's what Guinness was going for here, but what I would have really liked to have seen a lot more in this beer. I like the amount of mint. I'm not opposed to the mint that's coming through. What I'm opposed to is how like forward that bourbon barrel aging, that bourbon barrel characteristic is coming through. And if there is any chocolate that's in here, like I said, it's very slight on the upfront. I feel like it's just being washed out. It's being drowned out by all that kind of stinging bourbon characteristic that comes through. I don't feel like with it warming anymore that you would pick up more on that. But if I had one thing that I could change on this beer, like I mentioned before, it would be to add more chocolate. If I had two things I could change about this beer, I would add more chocolate. It'd be number one. And number two would be to pull back on some of that, like astringent, just kind of burning bourbon characteristic. Because what it is it's not, you don't even get kind of like the stout flavor out of this. There's no kind of, there's no roasty, chocolatey, malty flavor. I don't get any of that. I just get mint on the upfront because it's so kind of strong. And again, I don't mind that. That's not a problem for me. I like mint. For someone who doesn't like mint, avoid this at all costs. It's not going to be something that you're going to enjoy, and you're going to pay probably way too much for a beer that you're not going to enjoy, right? Because it's going to have so much mint in it. But yeah, if I could change anything about this, I would add more chocolate, pull back on some of the bourbon. I think the mint amount is fine, but if you are averse to mint, if it's not something that you're into, don't buy this beer. I'm just not picking, because that mint is so strong and that bourbon characteristic is so strong, as I've said probably 500 times by now. It's just drowning out any kind of maltiness, any kind of just stoutiness of this beer at all. If you like mint, though, this would be definitely one to pick up. If you're not into stout, I would avoid at all costs. You know, while I say that too, I wonder if the non-barrel aged version has a little bit of a more chocolatey characteristic to it. I guess that's not something I'll ever know. All right, friends, that's been Bourbon Barrel Aged Chocolate Mint Stout from Guinness Open Gate Brewery. Have you had this one before? Have you had any other of those other Guinness variants, and do you have a favorite? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there, if you like beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell. I'm here talking about beer twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's all for free for viewers just like you, and you might miss your newest favorite if you're not subscribed and getting those notifications. You might avoid a clunker if you're watching and it's just not something you're into. What if you didn't like mint and you thought maybe this wasn't enough mint? You'd never know. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, drink craft beer, support your local breweries. These guys are in Baltimore, Maryland. And most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little draft therapy. Thanks for watching. Cheers.